Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the state of Florida in the 2024 presidential election. And I'll be explaining by popular request, people wanted to see a video about Florida, what my thoughts are on it, and why, to be more specific here, I think it might be a little closer than you're expecting. I can smell the comments from a mile away. I know there are people already thinking this. I do not think Biden's going to win Florida. Don't think he'll come close to winning Florida. And I would not advise anyone to, even consider Biden having a chance here. I think if you maybe do it as a percentage, it would be probably below 5%, close to 2 or 3%. But again, I haven't done the math in my head. So there's not too much I can say about that. But Biden will not win Florida. If he does, I will be very surprised. So just wanted to get that out there. But let's talk about it. I think a lot of people are really blinded by the 2022 results in Florida. We saw Marco Rubio win by 17% against Val Demings, who was a credible opponent for the Democrats. I don't think she was amazing, but I think she wasn't a nobody. She ran a decent campaign. She raised money. She did the things you'd expect a normal candidate for Senate to do, and she still lost by 17. So let's talk about it. Marco Rubio, as you can see here, flipped a number of Biden counties: Miami-Dade, Osceola, Seminole, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Duval. And these are all pretty big counties. The smallest, I think, might be Seminole, but actually, I might be wrong with that too. Actually, yeah, it's Osceola. But again, these are all large counties. They're not like random rural counties that don't matter. These are big counties in metro areas. Miami-Dade is the biggest county in Florida, so it flipped red. Tampa Bay, Pinellas County cast, well over 400,000 votes. Hillsborough County cast, nearly 500,000. And then Osceola and Seminole, these are the suburbs of Orlando. And then Duval County, that's another big one, Jacksonville. And so this is a result that I think is obviously really good for Republicans. It's kind of a best-case scenario, but I don't think Trump's going to replicate it. And I say that for a couple of reasons. The first of which is just baseline partisanship. Florida's a red state. Everyone knows that now. But when you look at presidential races, they're a lot less idiosyncratic, right? Senate races are federal, but they can be really weird, right? Like in Maine, we saw a Republican win. We saw a Democrat win in Montana in 2018, right? So there are always going to be weirder Senate results. And, a 17-point victory for Republicans in Florida is still pretty shocking, right? Like that's still a 14.0 performance of the previous presidential election, right? When John Tester won in Montana in 2018, he outperformed Hillary Clinton by like 18%. Rubio outperformed Trump by 14%, which is still not, not too far off, but it's just less impressive because he's already in a red state. So this is an objective overperformance for Marco Rubio, who's a very good incumbent. In 2016, he outperformed Trump by 9%. So he's always been he's always been a consistent outrunner, overperformer whenever he's on the ballot for Republicans, and he's kind of locked down the Senate seat since he first won in 2010. And that's obviously big news for Republicans. It's very helpful to have someone as popular as Rubio in the Senate because he's always doing well in his elections. But he was also aided by a couple other factors in this 2022 re-election bid. The first of which was turnout disparities. Democrats in Florida Democrats nationwide had a decent year. They still lost the turnout battle, but not by as much as a lot of people were predicting. And in states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, they actually did better. But in Florida, it was a disaster. The turnout was 7% more Republican than 2020, meaning that if you reran the electorate, if everyone who voted in 2022 voted for president the way they voted in 2020 without changing their vote, like say someone changed their mind, they wouldn't change their mind, they just voted the same way they voted in 2020, Trump would have won by 10. So Rubio won a Trump plus 10 electorate by 17, which is, again, still good, but not as impressive as the 14% number originally. So if you ran this election with the electorate of 2020, Rubio would, he would have won by 10 and not 17. So that makes it a bit less impressive. Again, still a good performance, but it puts it in context a bit more because Democrats did not turn out. And what that does is it, kind of reminds you that even though Rubio is a good incumbent, he could only outperform by so much. And Trump, not a great candidate in my opinion. I do not think he's going to be very electable in 2024. Biden's super unpopular. I get that. But Trump as the Republican, I think, really hurts the party, whether it be his indictments, his baggage, his unpopularity as president, the fact he's already lost a presidential election. And so for that reason, I'm going to say that he would not be as good of a performer in Florida as Rubio has been. So that to me really knocks at the possibility of a 15-point victory, the way some people are discussing. Obviously, Florida's a right-trending state. A lot of Democrats are moving out. A lot of Republicans are moving in. But it's still, I would broadly call it closer to even than not. So let's now go to 2020, because this was a pretty unimpressive result for Joe Biden at the time. But if he lost by 3 points again, I think he'd be pretty satisfied. And most of that comes from Miami-Dade County. Hillary Clinton won this by 30 points. Biden won it by 9 or 7, actually. And so that's really bad, obviously. That's a pretty impressive underperformance on the part of Joe Biden. And again, like, when you take a look at how many votes this county cast, well over 1 million. And so Donald Trump, to win Florida, all he has to do is just really hold on in Miami-Dade County. He just has to, keep cutting into the margins Democrats are getting. And if I had to guess, I think Biden narrowly wins Miami-Dade County in 2024, probably by like a point or two. But he netted, $85K out of this county in 2020. He probably nets close to $20 or $30K, if that, in 2024, and that really hurts him again. Similar thing, Palm Beach County. The Palm Beach County trended 3% to the right, Broward 5%. So less drastic swings, but they're certainly probably going to narrow up a little bit. And then Orlando, I think Orange County itself, which did not really move too much in 2020, is probably going to stay similar. I think Biden wins it by maybe 22%. But he'll do better in Seminole and Osceola. These are both the suburbs. Actually, sorry, I'm wrong. Osceola trended right. What am I saying? Seminole, however, I think he'll do better, and that's a suburb. Osceola, probably not actually. After seeing that, I do not know why I blanked. I'm filming this at, what time is it? I don't have I've tucked my phone across the room, but it's like probably 1:30 or 2 in the morning right now, so my brain is like functioning like at the bare minimum. But regardless, the point I'm making here is that in Orlando, I think he'll kind of trade. I think he'll do worse in the city itself and better in the suburbs. And then I don't know what's going on in Osceola County. Someone needs to investigate that, but that's a pretty drastic swing to the right. So maybe it's just a bad sign for Democrats in 2024. I don't know too much about Osceola County, if I'm being honest. I thought it was more suburbs, but clearly not. So maybe Trump wins it. If he does well, I'm not sure. I can be more confident in Tampa Bay, though. I think Biden will win Hillsborough County. He outperformed Clinton there by like a very marginal amount in 2020, and then he outran her by a point in Pinellas. I think he loses Pinellas. He only won it by 0.3 in 2020, and more Republicans are moving into St. Petersburg. So it's a suburb. It's kind of left trending, but the demographics are getting more conservative. So I would say, if I had to guess, it's a coin flip, but Trump wins it. And then Duval County, this is one that I think Biden's going to do well, and he won it by 4 in 2020, outran Clinton by over 5%. So it's a left-trending county. Jacksonville elected a Democratic mayor for the first time in a while, just this year. So I think it stays blue. I think Biden wins it by 6 or 7. I think that Jacksonville's his best, it's kind of his best spot. It's his best trend in Florida. He'll hold on to Tallahassee. Alachua County is where the University of Florida is, so it's kind of a college town area that's generally pretty progressive, although I do believe Biden did pretty well there in 2020. So, yeah, I'll say he holds on to all the counties he won in 2020 except for Pinellas. Maybe he loses Osceola, but he won it by a good amount, so probably not there yet, but it will narrow up. He might lose Miami-Dade. I wouldn't be shocked, but I will make the argument that he will narrowly carry it. Hispanic voters tend to trend towards the incumbent, and again, I'm not a huge believer in like historical trends because they're not always the most accurate predictor. But Miami-Dade County is an urban area. It's like rural Hispanic voters are kind of destined to trend Republican because rural voters and education polarization really kick in. Miami-Dade County, there are voting blocks that are going to be Republican, like Cuban voters and Venezuelan voters. But aside from that, I really think Trump kind of hit his ceiling realistically in 2020. So I would bet on him losing it. Now, where does that get you? It gets you kind of to a result between 2020 and 2024. I think Biden will do worse in most counties in 2024 than he did in 2020, but he'll do better than Val Demings. And so for that reason, I'm saying, he loses Florida by 8 or 9. A lot of people think he's going to lose it by like 12. I think he loses it by 8 if I had to guess. Again, like if you take a look at the exit polls in 2020, they weren't they don't say too much. When you look at Hispanic voters, Biden only won them by 7, and that was a pretty bad underperformance of Hillary Clinton, who won them by, I believe, upwards of 15%, if not more than that. I don't have the result from 2016 pulled up, but what I will say is that this is not going to cut it. And I think, again, traditionally Hispanic Hispanic voters do trend towards the incumbent, but I don't know how much value that has considering Trump's kind of a half income. He's already been president, and Joe Biden is someone who I think is just uniquely unpopular with Hispanic voters. So this number probably trends towards Trump. I think Biden will improve with educated voters. When you look at how educated voters voted in 2020, they supported Joe Biden by 3%. I think Biden will probably win them by more than that this time. So again, that might help him in some suburbs, but Florida itself is not super college educated. So as a result of that, I don't think it helps him too much anyway. Anyways, but regardless, I would say Biden wins Florida by 8 as of right now. It's probably going to be a weird result. There are, like I said, a wide range of outcomes, but Florida is such a big state that you could see any number of trends occurring. I think maybe we see Biden do really well in Jacksonville with white educated voters, but collapse with Hispanic voters in the South. I don't know. We could maybe see Biden hold his ground with Hispanic voters, but underperform with white educated voters. I'm not sure. Regardless, it's a Trump state. It's going to stay red, but it'll be interesting to kind of look at the more micro-specific trends in the state. So thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next one.